welcome into the Sporting JAX report. Along with Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Coming up, some big signings in the USL Super League to get to as well. We'll look ahead to the Women's Champions League final. But let's start with a closer look at how the USL is developing a pathway to the pros for young soccer hopefuls in our area. Mauricio, when you hear soccer executives from other countries talk about the United States as a developing soccer country, they usually talk about how the U.S. isn't developing as many top players per capita. Some of that is about the competition with other sports. Some of it is about structure. But this is something that's starting to change a little bit in soccer.
It definitely is, and I think the international landscape is starting to identify, and you see so many American names playing on big teams, not just playing overseas. I think we've always played overseas to a certain extent, but now playing in the Premier League, playing in La Liga, playing in Serie A, it's starting to change, and they're taking notice that these players can actually be players of importance.
All right, let's talk about how the USL and how Sporting JAX will be a part of this in this pathway to the pros. You just showed a graphic there that kind of gives you an idea of how things are structured. But let's talk specifically about how players playing on the youth level can find that pathway to the pros.
So certainly, if you look at the graphic there, so the USL Academy, USL Super Y at the bottom, USL Academy, it's really a program where you can identify the best 15 to 20-year-old players that can play within your region. They can belong to different clubs even within the local market, but it's the pro club, as you see there at the top in the Super League and the Championship. They can identify a grouping of 20 to 30 players that can play 15 to U19 age group, and they can be identified to potentially play on the first team eventually. That's the goal, that a player that if they're good enough, they're old enough, and they can eventually be identified for the pro team.
Well, as you see here, you've got the USL Academy, and then sort of the top level of that pre-professional group in the USL is USLW League and the USL League 2, both of whom have teams here in Jacksonville with Florida Elite, a partner with the Sporting JAX. So when you see players from the USLW, USL2, the women's and the men's respectively, these are players who are with a pretty good chance to find their way to become pros at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And the pathway that you see there is really, it's an under-20 team and then under-23 team, which is what the USL2 and the W League are. And they're typically college-level players and some young youth players from within the system that can play in a summer league environment. Once the teams are rolling, once we're playing in the USL Championship and the Super League, the first teams will be playing. So some of the players from that under-23 environment, they can actually get pulled up to the first team to train with the first team. They can play games with under-23, but they can train and they can really be in a professional environment, which is really the only way that you're going to know if they can make it to the next step. Can you put them in a place with other pros, with adults? Can they hang? Can they perform? And if you can answer that question, there's a good opportunity you're going to be asked to sign a pro contract.
It's really unlike any other sport where you can have these local players, these young, local, talented players have an opportunity to show their stuff to the local pro team. You don't see that in any other sport, really, and this is how the pathway to the pros is going to work for Sporting JAX and for the USL. We'll have more on that coming up in future installments here of the Sporting JAX report. We want to remind you that you can become a member of Sporting JAX. Just go to sportingjax.com, sign up to become a member. It's absolutely free. You'll get discounts on club merchandise, invitations to VIP events, entries into contests for prizes and experiences, and receive the Sporting JAX monthly newsletter. Plus, you can put your deposit down for season tickets for the Sporting JAX men's and women's teams and receive an exclusive Sporting JAX founding member pin. Just go to sportingjax.com to become a member. With the USL Championship underway and the USL Super League women's soccer kicking off in August, we will have year-round soccer here in Jacksonville once Sporting JAX kicks off in a couple of years. And each week on the show, we're going to bring you the game of the week, so you'll have some familiarity with the clubs and the players in each league. And this week, it was a big week in the USL Championship when you talk about a big matchup of teams from the state of California.
Yeah, and California is just loaded with talent. They have three teams that are representing the USL Championship, and really Oakland, Orange County, and Sacramento Republic. Oakland and Orange County have been kind of climbing up. Sacramento Republic really the best in the West, as we talked about before. But Oakland Roots, they have Oakland Soul on the Super League eventually. Two really good teams, and they went at it this past week.
All right, well, we'll bring you that game coming up here in just a moment. I do want to remind you that it was a big week in the USL Championship on the real estate side as well. We found that one of the big success keys really is having teams with their own facilities, as Sporting JAX is working on. And this week, two USL Championship cities made big announcements over the past week. First, in Detroit, Detroit City FC announced that the club is buying land at the abandoned site of the Southwest Detroit Hospital. You see the site right there. They'll clear the way for a 14,000-seat stadium. Detroit's established itself, Mauricio, as one of the best home atmospheres in the league. Meanwhile, in Pittsburgh, the Riverhounds announced that the club is developing a 3-field training site that will be the training facility for the team. Both of these moves are significant. They really further establish each team as the soccer club in their city. Mauricio, these are big announcements, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. In Detroit, what that says to me is that they're looking to expand, right? They have an iconic environment, as you mentioned, probably one of the best home field advantages, but it's small, it's old, and if they want to invest, if they want to grow, they're going to have to do that.
There's the Pittsburgh training site right there.
Yeah, and that's what I was about, with Pittsburgh, it shows that they're investing in their own club, in their own development, and really looking to be, how do we attract better players? Because veteran players are going to help you win championships. Ultimately, they want to go to a place that have resources, that have good training facilities, good environment, they have the training room, they have the weight room, they have everything. That certainly the quality of the field or the option of fields is something that top level professionals are looking for.
Yeah, and that's going to make a big difference there. Again, more on the Sporting JAX front as we continue on throughout the course of the summer. Time now for our Island Wing Game of the Week. And we have a thriller between the two California teams that we talked about. Let's go right to it as Orange County traveled to Oakland to take on the Roots. The matchup in the Golden State with Oakland trying to snap a 4-game winless streak. Orange County and Orange came in third in the West. Visitors control the action early, 16th minute. Watch this attempt from distance by Brian Olaski. Parried away by Paul Blanchette, who's on the wrong foot, but we remain 0-0. 4 minutes later, Orange County on the attack again. Ryan Dogman, a defender coming forward with a beautiful service in the box, and Thomas Among with this goal. Fourth in league play, and Orange County takes a 1-0 lead.
Nicole, really great service, great header from Among, but no excuse from the Roots defenders to lose their mark inside the 6-yard box.
Later, we're half an hour in, and this was a bit of a contentious call. A penalty on Orange County. Take a look here. Mauricio, what do you think?
Cole, I have done my own VR analysis. I slowed down the play. Reed does get a toll on the ball before the defender, so I will keep the PK, which at first glance, it did not look like a pen, but when you slow it down, you can see that the attacker did get his first toll on the ball.
And that would be to the advantage of Oakland, where Trayvon Reed with the PK, the slow windup, and levels the game at 1. It would remain tied until stoppage time, when the home team would have another chance. Oakland, and it would be Gagi getting on the end of this one, a center back to give the Roots a 2-1 win at home. What a heartbreaker for Orange County, and what a finish by the Roots.
Yeah, really, throw tactics aside at this point. Gagi, number 4, I think he was poorly timed on the first goal that Orange County scored, but he's a big boy, sent him up top. He saw no time left on the clock, and they put him out at the top. Great finish. It looks like a proper forward here. And at 93rd minute, with no time to go, he wins and he gets a celebration like a good defender, which just means that he doesn't really know how to celebrate.
All right, let's take a look at some of the scores from around the league. Tampa Bay, 5 spot in a win at home against Tulsa. Loudoun United with a 3-0 victory at home as well. There were a couple of very impressive performances around the league.
Yeah, look at Tampa Bay, as you mentioned, really a good bounce back, 4-0 at halftime. But look at the Battery. They just continue to get on the roll. Birmingham is a good team right now, but Battery continue to get on a roll. And on the other side of it, El Paso cannot get a victory.
It has been a tough go for the Locomotive. So those are the scores from around this week in the USL Championship. Let's take a look at the standings as they sit right now. Sacramento Republic on top in the West, but New Mexico United with a game in hand right there with a chance to jump back on top.
Yeah, don't look now, but New Mexico, if they can win, they had a game at hand, they can win. It's actually going to be the first time this season that we might have a new number 1. But Orange County, I know they lost, but Monterey Bay and Phoenix continue to climb up.
In the East, we see at the top of the standings, Charleston Battery with 2 games in hand. But you look at Detroit City, they only have 8 games played so far. They have an opportunity to really climb up here. They've had U.S. Open Cup matches and scheduling changes, but they're in great position in third. Yeah,
they're going to have a really congested schedule at one point, to make up those games. I want to keep an eye on Indy and Tampa Bay. 2 teams that are on the rise, that are slow start with a lot of ties, not a whole lot of losses, but a whole lot of ties. When they kind of get going here and they get hot, I think they're going to start contending and pushing Louisville and Battery at the top.
All right, for more on Sporting JAX and the USL, we invite you to subscribe to The Sporting Pod. Our weekly podcast takes you behind the scenes of what we're doing to build up to kickoff. Mauricio and I are joined by Tony Allegretti to discuss the hot topics in the soccer world and give the latest updates on Sporting JAX. Find The Sporting Pod on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. And this week we discussed the recently announced matchup between Premier League sides West Ham and Wolves coming to town July the 27th as part of the Stateside Cup.
And there are a ton of hammers in this town. Like it's really kind of remarkable. I think they picked a really good fixture for us in this cup. So really excited for all the fans that are going to be. I was talking to a lady yesterday in St. Augustine who's a diehard hammer and like already got her tickets. Really excited.
The Premier League coming to Jacksonville is going to be a big deal at Everbank Stadium on July the 27th with Wolves taking on West Ham. You heard Tony talk about all the Hammer fans here in Jacksonville. But what a great opportunity to see the most popular league, arguably the best league in world soccer, coming here to Jacksonville.
Yeah, and really the first time that EPL is back, or professional soccer at that level, at the top level, is back in Jacksonville in almost 10 years now. West Ham will have a new manager. Wolves had a good but quiet season with a new manager themselves this past year, but what a great opportunity. As I mentioned before, that's going to be right before, you look at the date, July 27th, right before the kickoff of the Premier League. So you expect that game to be a real game as close as it can be.
Should be a good one, and we will have more information on ways for you to get out there and watch Premier League soccer here in Jacksonville coming up. When we come back, Becky Burleigh joins us to analyze some of the early signings in the USL Super League and what they tell us about the approach taken by the clubs who will kick off in August. That's straight ahead. As the Sporting JAX report rolls on, we invite you to join us for our Summer of Soccer watch parties. May 25th, we'll be at Culhane's Irish Pub on the South Side for the Women's Champions League Final. Then on June the 1st, it's the Champions League Final for the men. We'll be at both Island Wing locations, and then during the Copa America at the end of June, we'll be at Grace Note Brewing for 3 watch parties. We'll have prizes to give away and a chance for you to ask questions about Sporting JAX. It's free to attend, but please RSVP by going to sportingjax.com. More to come right after this. All USL Championship games are streamed on ESPN Plus or CBS's Golazo network, and the next national broadcast comes on CBS Sports Network as Monterey Bay hosts Charleston Battery. That's Wednesday night, 10 p.m. on CBS Sports Network, May the 29th. Let's welcome in Becky Burleigh now as we talk a little USL Super League. And Becky, one of the big things we have seen now is all these different brands have been announced and launched. We just recently saw Dallas Trinity have their brand launched, and they also named Chris Petroselli as their general manager. I wonder what you think about the moves here early on by one of the inaugural teams.
Well, I think that's a great idea to hire Chris, because not only does Chris have some recent experience at the pro level, but he's a Dallas guy. Like, he spent a lot of time at SMU, and he's just got the lay of the land. I love that hire. I think that's pretty exciting.
Becky, and not only with head coaches and sporting directors, but a lot of player signings as well. What do you get from some of these new signings this week?
You know what I think's been pretty cool about watching the signings is some clubs are really going for the local talent. You know, like, for example, Spokane just signed a player from Washington. I think that's pretty cool because it's immediate draw for people who have seen this player play in college. And then there's been some signings that have been awesome, like the Danish player that was signed. She's brought a lot of experience. There's players from Puerto Rico. There's players from the NWSL. I mean, it's just an exciting time right now to watch these signings start to roll in and kind of try to get a vibe as to what each of these teams is trying to do in terms of the value they're putting on certain positions.
Yeah, to me, one of the intriguing things is to see what kind of personalities each club is going to start presenting, both in terms of style of play and approach to the game, how they allow the players to express themselves on the field, that sort of thing. It's really going to be exciting to see come August. Let's talk, though, about what the teams will need to do between now and then to kick off the season. What kind of things are on coaches' checklists for this summer?
Oh my gosh, those checklists must be like a mile long, because although August seems like a little ways off, I mean, it is like right around the corner. And, you know, first of all, having put together a team, it just feels like that checklist is never ending. But at the same time, like, you start getting signings, you start making these hires, and all of a sudden pieces start to come together. And I think that's when it gets really, really exciting.
Well, shifting the focus a little bit to this weekend's match, the Women's Champions League final, Barcelona versus Olympique de Lyon. We have an American on the field. That game seems to be getting bigger attention all the time. I actually happen to be in the Netherlands last year when Barcelona won. So I got to experience just how big that game was internationally. What do you think the impact of the U.S. Champions, the Champions League is having here in the U.S.?
You know, that game is like an all-star, all-world match. I mean, you look at the players on both of those rosters and you're just like, man, like this is the who's who of everyone. And I think it's pretty cool because basically these two teams have won the last 8. Obviously, Barcelona's coming off like the last couple, and they're just, I mean, as a country, they are rolling, and it doesn't surprise anyone that the club system is doing the same thing. But you know what? You can't count out that Lyon group because if you look at that freaking roster, it's like so amazing the players they have. I think it's going to be a blockbuster match.
Yeah, including Lindsey Horan, the U.S. captain on that team, of course, going to be one that a lot of American fans will be watching very closely. Becky, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next week.
That sounds great.
Well, it's not too early to become a season ticket member for Sporting JAX. Just go to sportingjax.com, put your deposits down. $25 reserves your space for the men's or women's team. And if you want to reserve a spot for both, it's just $40. Just go to sportingjax.com to save your seat for pro soccer in Jacksonville. Coming up, Sporting JAX will be in the community a lot this summer. Coming up, a closer look at what you can expect from our Summer of Soccer watch parties. That's straight ahead as the Sporting JAX report rolls on. We are just months away from unveiling the first Sporting JAX official kit, but right now you can get your own official merchandise, from t-shirts and hats to sweatshirts and, of course, the scarf. You can find Sporting JAX official merchandise at sportingjax.com, at our official team store on Phillips Highway, and at We Got Soccer. Mauricio, we've talked a lot about how important it is for Sporting JAX to be out in the community. That includes helping nonprofits and introducing the game to kids who haven't been exposed to soccer before, but it's also about rallying the soccer community. And as we mentioned, we're holding a series of watch parties this summer, a great way for fans to experience the game together, just as soccer is intended to be.
Yeah, and really in this time that we have, Cole, it's an opportunity for us to engage with our fans. They get to meet our front office, get to meet who the members are. We get to ask them questions, they get to ask us questions, and it's a way for us to really bring the soccer community together. It's a community sport. It's the sport of the people, if you would. So it's just a great chance for us to kind of get out there. You saw us here, we partnered with the All-Navy team when they were training here for the All-Military Games. There's little opportunities, different groups, nonprofit organizations, partners. It's just a great event, especially this summer, right? There's so much soccer going on.
Yeah, again, we were calling it the Summer of Soccer. That's exactly what we have with all these watch parties. Great opportunity for folks to experience the thrill, especially when you have a team to root for here. You can feel the energy in the bars and restaurants when this is happening. What's been so impressive to me is how many Sporting JAX fans have already identified themselves as that because they want to be out there and be a part of what's going on. They want to see everything that's going on. They want to feel the excitement as they wait for Sporting JAX to take the field for the first time.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, it's positively surprising, but it is surprising, it's still that we get people asking us, when is the next thing you're going to be doing? When is your next watch party? When is your next event? So that just shows us, once again, there's a level of interest to bring in high-level soccer into this community, and we want to keep answering those questions slowly, make sure that once we do have an answer to it, it's a concrete answer, it's not elusive. So it requires a little bit of patience, we understand that, but getting that interest from the community, it's been something that's been really positively surprising for us.
Yeah, it's been great, and we look forward to more of those in our watch parties coming up. Again, you can join us, just go to sportingjax.com and put your RSVP in. We'd love to see you out at one of the many watch parties we have planned for this Summer of Soccer. Still to come, we'll update you on other ways to stay in touch with Sporting JAX, including when you can see this show every week. Stick around, there's more to come on the Sporting JAX Report. Report every Wednesday at noon on ABC 25 with re-airings on Saturdays on ABC 25 and on demand on First Coast News Plus. And remember to follow us on social media. You can stay connected with everything we have going on with the Sporting JAX Report and with the club in general on all of your favorite social media channels. Do want to take a moment here to thank everybody who reached out over the past couple of days, the past week or so, after the first installment of the Sporting JAX report. Very kind of everybody to give their congratulations. We're excited about it, Mauricio, for a number of reasons, not the least of which being because we have some big announcements we're going to be able to bring to you coming up here this summer. Once the stadium is announced, we'll be able to give you some behind-the-scenes look at what's happening with the stadium development, first sporting director, first players, and interviews with key decision-makers around the USL and the world of soccer.
Well, cool. As a soccer person, we don't get enough soccer really kind of in our traditional streams of network, especially kind of locally, and that's not just exclusive to Jacksonville. So I'm personally excited that we get to talk soccer, whether it's USL Championship, Super League, the first women's professional team coming to our city, brand new stadium, really 2 pro teams arriving out nearly at the same time, an entire pathway to pro academy, and then we just get to talk soccer. So for me, I'm just thrilled.
Exactly what you want to be doing each and every week. There's no doubt about that. All right, that'll do it for us here on the Sporting JAX report. We'll have more coming up next week and online on the Sporting JAX YouTube page. Check us out on our social media. We'll talk to you next week right here on the Sporting JAX report.